What I want to talk to you guys about today is how to push through hard times. Because on your path to achievement and expansion of whatever it is you're trying to get, there's going to be hard times. Don't be fooled into thinking that it's going to be easy. I know that modern marketing has us in a frame of like, get this really cool outcome that you really, really want without sacrificing anything and giving up any of the stuff that you really like. That's really how modern marketing works. That's how everybody's framed. You're framed that way. I'm framed that way. I frame people that way when I'm doing marketing and when I'm doing advertising. So I understand very acutely how that is, but the reality of it is that regardless of how easy the path, and people do have shortcuts to helping people get what they want, but regardless how that goes, there's still going to be hard times that you have to face to get it. And to demonstrate that point, I want to share with you guys a relevant story that I heard recently about Michael Phelps. And if you don't remember who Michael Phelps is, he was the Olympic swimmer for the United States. He broke all the records, got the most medals in any games ever. And that's exactly the story that I want to share with you guys today, because it is really, really relevant about the hard times and what must be done in preparation for the hard times. So this was in the 2008 Olympics, which was in Beijing. And this is the first one where he was going to go for winning 8 gold medals at a single games, which would have been more than any athlete in history, not just any swimmer in history, any athlete in Olympic Games history to win 8 gold medals in a single game. Now, where the story really starts here is in his 8th event. He'd already done 7 events and he'd gotten 7 gold medals. And his 8th event happened to set up really, really well for Michael Phelps. It was a 200-meter fly. And if you watched the career arc and the competitions that Phelps was in, 200 fly, like that's his thing. Like that's his best thing that he could do, his best stroke, his best distance. Like that was his jam. Absolutely. It was hands down, no problem. But an interesting story came out after the race, and this was from Phelps talking about it. What had happened was when he dove into the pool, within his first 50 meters, his goggles started to leak. Now, I can imagine how I would have reacted if I was in the Olympics and there's that amount of pressure where I've already got 7 medals, but that really nobody's going to talk about my 7 medals. If I don't get the 8th one, I'm always going to be the guy that fell short of getting the 8th versus the guy that got 7. So there would have been a ton of pressure on that. Not to mention it was live streamed all over the place with tons of people, and it was just like it's all over. It's all over. I would have freaked out. But Phelps didn't freak out. He just kept on swimming. By the time the final 50 came in, so you got 50, 50, 50, 50, that's 200. By the time the final 50 came in, he said that his goggles were completely full of water. He couldn't see anything. And what he did was he just counted the number of strokes. Because what happened, and this is what's interesting, he had prepared for the eventuality of something really hard, almost a disaster happening to him in the Olympic Games, which is that he couldn't see. His goggles would fill with water. They actually practiced this and ran it when his coach was there. His coach was famous for like ripping his goggles off of his head when he would be trying to come up for a turn, so he had to do the next lap without being able to see. And then he would also do this where his goggles would fill up. They figured out how many strokes it would take when he was swimming at a certain pace to go from one side to the other side. He trained for this. He trained for the thing that was going to be hard. He envisioned everything that possibly could go wrong and then simply trained for that. So let's talk about how this story of Phelps really applies to you. When you set out to achieve something, whatever it is, if you want to make dramatically more money than you make today, or you want to have like the body that's on the cover of Men's Health or Women's Health, or you want just to repair a broken relationship, it doesn't even need to be like something that is like specifically for you. It could be any of those things. Whenever you achieve that, what I want you to start thinking about is, one, is that it's supposed to be hard. Like it's supposed to be hard to get that stuff. If being fit, rich, and in great relationships was easy, everybody would be doing it. But they're not. So it isn't. So recognize it's going to be hard. Then what I want you to do is envision all the possible ways that something could go wrong. Instead, most of the time what people do is they think positively. And I've been totally a victim of this as well, but victim isn't the right term. I've been a perpetrator of this because I believe I'm not a victim of anything ever. But I've been a perpetrator of this. What's happened is I sit there and I've got a new business idea and I look at the market and I say, man, if I could get just 2% of the market, I'd be a billionaire. We think positively. Chances are you think positively as well. Hey man, if I just follow this protocol for fitness, I'm going to have a six-pack in 6 months. Okay, good. That's right. But what I want you to think about instead is I want you to think about what could go wrong. Because what happens is that when something does go wrong, inevitably, like Mike Tyson says, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face, then what happens is that we go through these troughs and we get discouraged. And when we get discouraged, it causes us to question if it was the right call at all to try to go after that specific target. And then what happens is that we typically give up and we start looking for a new goal. That's really what the process is. And look back at everything that you failed to achieve that you said you wanted to achieve. And my bet is you're going to find some progression like that. Something hard happens that you didn't anticipate. You start to get discouraged. The discouragement causes you to question, is this really the right thing or did I think of the wrong thing to go do? And then what happens is that you start to look for a new goal after you give up and thinking maybe something else is going to work. So there's got to be a recognition inside of you that difficulties are going to be likely. Now, here's the beauty of that is once you recognize that and once you accept that, you can plan for it. And that's in essence what Michael Phelps did with all the things that could have gone wrong for him. It's the same idea for anything that you're trying to do. Just think through what are the major things that could trip me up? And what would I do if that obstacle came to light? What happens if that thing happens that could really, really cause me up? First thing with that is it's possible that just that process of thinking through it could get you to avoid it altogether. There may not even be a need to encounter that obstacle because you thought about it and there was an easy solution to get you out of dealing with it. All you had to do was think about it in order to get the result. If it's unavoidable, though, really plan what you will do if and when you hit that obstacle. This is the difference between the people who seem to achieve whatever they want to achieve and the people who struggle with achieving pretty much anything. Is exactly what I'm talking about here. Plus that principle I shared earlier of understanding that it's supposed to be hard. Like it's supposed to be. Remember that as you plan. And when you put all those things together, it really develops grit. It develops grit because what happens is you push through the times that are hard rather than the normal pattern of getting discouraged and questioning if it's the right thing, then giving up and looking for a new goal. I'm sure you've done that before. I know I've done that before. And that's really what, like the story you're telling yourself about your ability to push through has to do with your previous experience. But your previous experience may not have armed you with what we talked about here on the episode today. So really the call to action, what I want you to do after listening to what I've talked about here today is I want you to come up with one, the thing you want to achieve. Right? You should already have that clear. If you're not clear, you've got to get clear on that. Part two is what could possibly go wrong in your path to getting what you want. Then it's your job to start training for it. Do that, and I promise you're going to write a new story about who you are. Your possibilities of achievement are going to go through the roof, not just in this task that you're going to be doing as a result of this episode, but every single thing that you try to accomplish for the rest of your life, because this little thing has the possibility to shift your entire story about who you are as a person. Oh, and of course, before you leave, make sure to subscribe to this channel. New videos come out 3 times a week. We're talking about all things in body balance, business, and being to make sure you get whatever it is you want in your life. Make sure to subscribe, hit the bell icon so you do not miss any videos. Thanks for watching this one, guys. I will see you on the next.